Just want to say to you, we're delighted we're joined by the Shadow Justice Secretary, that is Robert Jenrick, to talk to him. Robert, good morning to you. Thanks for your time this morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Robert, there's so much to talk about, most of it about Keir Starmer, I would say. And let's talk about migrant figures. First of all, yesterday he made this big speech, this big declaration. But look, let's cut to the bone here. Isn't the only way of reducing migrant numbers to pull out of the ECHR? And if you don't do that, it's not going to happen.
Well, I watched Keir Starmer's press conference yesterday, and frankly, I didn't believe a word of it. I don't think your viewers would. I don't think my constituents would. It looked like a hostage situation where he was reading out words that somebody else had written for him. We know what he believes. His life, his career, his whole worldview is about open borders. He's just another politician telling lies, saying what he thinks the public want to hear, but not taking any action. Nothing he said yesterday is going to stop the boats. It's not going to bring down legal migration to the historic levels that we want to see. It's not going to get the 1 million people in our country who are here illegally out of our country, deport them. It's not going to get the 12,000 foreign criminals in our prisons, out of our country. What we have to do is take serious action. No more lies, serious action. And what we're saying is that is a legally binding cap set by
legally
Parliament,
binding
so people
cap.
can have confidence that this time people actually mean it. And secondly, we need to ensure that we change those human rights laws and have the Human Rights Act cut out, so no more vexatious claims, no more fake actions by illegal migrants and their lawyers. You can get those people out of our country and end the merry-go-round of ludicrous legal actions that are frustrating the system today.
But people can't take you seriously, though, can they, Mr. Jenrick? Because you, as the Tories, you implemented a cap yourselves. You failed with that cap. Now we're talking about the ECHR. You won't commit to leaving the ECHR. And under your watch, under the previous government, there was the Boris wave, as it's described, of migration, when numbers went from 200,000 or so to 900,000. So it's a bit rich coming from the Tories talking about how to get a grip now and reduce net migration.
Well, look, I have been painfully honest, more than I think anybody else, about the failings of the last Conservative government. I think the immigration policy that it pursued was catastrophic. As you know, when I was Immigration Minister, I campaigned to put in place measures that would reduce the number of people coming into this country. I secured the biggest changes to the system in recent memory that will lead to 300,000 fewer people coming in every year. And I resigned when I couldn't persuade the then Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to go any further. I resigned on principle, and frankly, if only this current crop of Labour politicians had the backbone to do that. Yvette Cooper is just going to be yet another politician who makes promises and breaks them. She'll be consigned to the dustbin of history of Home Secretaries who doesn't fix this problem. We didn't have a cap in the past. There was a promise, but it was not a legally binding cap. That is the big difference that we're proposing. I do believe that cutting out the Human Rights Act that Tony Blair created will make a difference. It will help to stop the claims. But yes, we do also need to go further. And you know my position on leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. But Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the party, is now leading a policy renewal process where we're going to carefully consider what our position is. And that's going to come out in the months to come.
Yeah, what's also coming out very strongly amongst our viewers in terms of who's listening and who's watching is that, unfortunately for Mr. Starmer, they don't believe a word that he is saying based on his previous track record. This guy flips and flops and flops and flips, and people just don't know what he's going to say next.
Keir Starmer is serially dishonest. He lied and lied at the general election. He said he wasn't going to raise taxes, and then he went and did it. And on this, just look at his life. This is the man who voted against every piece of border control legislation. He said that border control is basically racist. He wrote letters trying to frustrate the removal of dangerous criminals from this country back home to their own countries. He stood to be leader of the Labour Party on a platform of restoring free movement and said that immigration was an unalloyed good for this country. You can't believe a word he says, and nobody does believe him. He's just reading out the lines that someone else has written for him, and it's just going to perpetuate the incredible levels of anger and frustration there are in this country right now about politicians who make promises and break them on immigration. Just get out of Westminster and hear what the public feel on this issue. It is time for action. That is what the public want now. Let's get immigration back down to the levels that we enjoyed as a country for decades before Tony Blair changed all of that, because it's putting massive pressure on housing, on public services. It's undercutting the wages of British workers and making this country poorer, and it's making us less united. The only thing, frankly, I agree with Keir Starmer on is his belief, his sense that we are living in an increasingly disunited country. That is the truth. People are feeling disorientated by the fact that some communities are changing beyond all recognition. The pace of change is too fast. It's got to change.
As you say, there's a huge issue on the doorstep. The public feel really strongly on this one. Reform UK has the toughest line on immigration, don't they? And they saw huge success in local elections last week. And then you have the Labour Party and Sir Keir Starmer sounding like the Tories yesterday in that speech that he gave. So where does this leave the Conservative Party? Where do they fit in this new system? Does it render you as obsolete?
Look, I think we have to be painfully honest about the mistakes that we made. We have to then bring forward serious and credible solutions to those challenges. And that's what we are now doing. We've already said that we're going to have a legally binding cap set by Parliament. That's a policy that I pursued with my colleague Neil O'Brien, which has been adopted by other parties like Reform now. That is the way to restore public trust and confidence, because people would actually know for once it's going to happen. They can have confidence that Parliament will have set in the law of the land the level of migration that we're going to permit into this country. And yes, on illegal migration, we do need to change our human rights laws, because I want to get us into a position which I've advocated for a very long time. It's why I resigned from government. So I want to see, if you come here illegally, you get arrested, you get detained, you get deported within hours and days, not weeks or months. That is the only way to resolve this challenge. And for the million people who are living in our country or more, illegally, we've got to deport those people.
But to do exactly what you're proposing, which is what most people would say, why aren't we doing this? We're not doing this because of the European Commission on Human Rights, basically primarily. And you think that's sortable? You think you can actually change that, you can change it quickly, and you can make a difference?
Yes, I do believe you can do that. It's not just about our human rights laws. It's bigger than that. There are more things we need to do. I've been campaigning recently about activist judges. And we've seen this growing trend of judges at immigration tribunals bringing their politics into the decisions that they're making, and leading to, frankly, ludicrous decisions where people are not being removed from this country because their kids like chicken nuggets, or they're going to be subject to hostility if they return home, despite the fact that they're a murderer or a paedophile, or they've committed a terrible crime in this country. That has to end as well. So there needs to be change on many different fronts. We're working through the policies that will be necessary. But if we're lucky enough to be back in government in the future, we have to fix this, because the public are furious that their politicians have lied to them and not taken the robust action that's necessary. And I'm afraid Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper are just going to be part of that long line of politicians who have shown complete disregard for public opinion, said what they thought was necessary, but done precisely the opposite.
OK, Mr. Jenrick, we're out of time with you, I'm afraid, this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.